So in this video we'll be answering the question, is jewellery an investment? I'm here today in St James's with Matthew Wildsmith of Wildsmith Jewellery, and we're just chatting off camera about jewellery and asking the question, is jewellery an investment? Is there a short answer to that?
No, there is not a short answer to that question.
Good. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's quite an expansive question, really. And I suppose the first point would be is that jewellery is there to be enjoyed. You know, unless you're spending hundreds of thousands or millions of pounds on very rare pieces of jewellery that will hold value in a way that art does, and it becomes very speculative on price. As long as you shop around and get an idea of what things should cost, you know, if you walk down Bond Street to some of the famous names and you're paying for the red bag and the red box and the experience, you're paying for as much as that as you are the item that you buy.
Okay.
I would argue with antique jewellery, not to get too much into the pounds, shillings and pence, that you don't pay VAT on second-hand goods. So you're already saving that 20% that on a modern piece of jewellery. But you also have to consider the quality of the piece you're buying. So an 18 karat gold wedding band, for example, may, to all intents and purposes, look quite similar. But you could get a handmade 18 karat yellow gold wedding band or a cast 18 karat yellow gold wedding band. The prices will be very different, but the quality will also be very different.
Now, surely 18 karat gold is a standard, so if you're buying 18 karat gold in a high street jeweller, it's exactly the same as you'd find in a fancy Bond Street shop.
It depends where you buy your 18 karat gold. So for example, if you were to buy 18 karat or 22 karat somewhere in the Far East, it may not be the same standard of gold as the UK. Now, all gold made and manufactured in the UK for jewellery has to be assayed by the assay office, and they verify that 18 karat gold is 750 parts out of 1,000. So over, I think it's about 3 grams for 18 karat gold ring. Legally, you have to hallmark every piece of jewellery that you make.
So certainly, regardless if you're looking to invest, buying jewellery for yourself and you're spending more money, would you always say avoid any 18 karat gold without hallmarks?
No, I wouldn't, because it was not a legal requirement to hallmark items of jewellery. I think, and somebody will correct me here, it was 1973 when we entered the common market. Then the legal requirement to hallmark jewellery over a certain weight, whether that be silver, platinum or gold, depending, also including different carats of gold. But with antique jewellery, you'll often find that hallmarks either weren't put on or they were rubbed off, but you can get gold tested quite easily, and it's not to suggest that because an item of jewellery isn't hallmarked, it's worth any less. It's just a bit of a kite mark. If you're buying something brand new, it should always have a hallmark on it, essentially.
Okay. But two modern pieces with similar hallmarks from a high street jeweller compared to a Bond Street jeweller, am I getting the same gold?
You may well be getting the same gold, but I can almost guarantee you won't be getting the same quality. So if you go to a fine jeweller, one would hope that they're using the best craftsmen, making products that will last, let's say, 100 years. Whereas a good example for this actually is that I make handmade signet rings in an 18 karat gold for a nice heavyweight man's ring. You're looking to pay somewhere in the region of £3,000. You could walk on to a high street jeweller and find something that may look the same, will be about a third of the weight. It'll be £500 or £600, but the thing will get knocked, bashed, dented. You'll spend good money after bad repairing it.
So there's quite literally more gold. Although it's the same quality gold, you're getting more volume of gold in a better quality ring.
Yes, but that's not also to confuse something being heavier to necessarily being better quality.
Okay.
For example, with signet rings, you could buy a cast signet ring or a handmade signet ring. Now, what's the difference? A cast signet ring would be a ring that has liquid gold poured into a signet ring shaped mould. A handmade signet ring will be made from a stamping whereby you have probably a 2 to 3 millimetre sheet of gold, and the shape of a signet ring is punched out.
Okay.
And then it's fashioned by hand into the shape of a ring, hammered and tooled. And it's with a cast signet ring or wedding band or whatever piece of jewellery, you will almost certainly get porosity, and it just will not be as structurally solid as a handmade piece of jewellery. And with a signet ring that you're going to wear hopefully for the rest of your life, you spend the extra money and get a properly made ring.
Okay, this is interesting. So you've explained a lot to me there, so that's very, very interesting. But I think there's an idea that just buying gold, certified gold, is an investment anyway, because we see gold traded, we see it as a commodity. So surely owning some gold is an investment in itself.
Well, I'm always very cautious about using the term investment, certainly with my clients when they say, is this a good investment? And going back to what I said earlier, it's there to be enjoyed. With gold, you've always got liquid cash there effectively, because you can go to a bullion dealer and they'll give you a price based on the price of gold for that day. With jewellery, you're forgetting that there is a process and you're buying an article of appreciated value, certainly with antique jewellery. So you could buy a Fabergé gold stick pin that has intrinsic value of a couple of £100 in gold, but you're buying a work of art that could be worth many, many thousands. I had a client call me up once who was looking to invest, and he asked me how heavy our handmade signet rings were, and that he was thinking of either buying gold Britannia coins or a signet ring. And I said, well, the thing about a gold Britannia is that I believe they sell them for 2% over the spot rate in gold. So that is an investment in that regard, because you're buying much closer to the spot price of the gold. And I should just add here, I am not in a position to give investment advice on people in buying gold. But if you buy good quality pieces of jewellery, again, with hopefully you'll know you're paying a fair price. The ugly word is profit is what makes jewellery expensive. If you go to a very, very expensive street level showroom in an expensive part of town, they have to pay the rent somehow, quite understandably so. But if you always make an informed decision, which is difficult because jewellery is quite an emotive purchase. We deal in vintage and antique jewellery, so you'll find things that you can't go to a modern high street jeweller and buy 10 of. But with the good thing about vintage and second-hand jewellery is that you're not necessarily paying for somebody to make it, because that's already been a cost long forgotten.
When buying vintage and antique jewellery, or indeed selling things you maybe inherited, how important does brand stay? Does the brand from 50, 30 years ago still have a currency?
That's quite an interesting question. We've noticed a lot in the last 3 or 4 years, vintage Bulgari has soared in appreciation. Whereas 5, 6 years ago, I don't want to say you couldn't give it away, but its desirability wasn't as high.
And what's fueled that?
I grew up in the 90s and the noughties, and I would imagine within the next 10 years, 90s jewellery will become fashionable again, as hard as that might be to believe.
Okay, no, I can believe that. So I'm guessing what you're saying is, what I've learned from this, is that although there is an intrinsic value in gold jewellery, do not feel like you're investing in gold as a commodity, because you're using, if you have it melted down, like you see these cash converter type things on daytime TV, I'm sure you've seen them, where you can sell your gold for cash, you're losing all the value of the production and design, etc.
Yeah, it's a pity. I've seen certain things go to the scrap pile, which is almost criminal. But the thing with gold is that, yes, you can turn it into cash more quickly than a diamond or an emerald or a sapphire. You have to try and find the right market in which to sell it.
But diamonds, now we know that gold has a value to it because it's traded. We see it as a commodity. You can melt it down, you can get cash for it, nowhere near what the original value of the ring would be. We don't trade in diamonds in the same way. Well, they do have an intrinsic value because I know they're used for industry, but are industrial diamonds the same as what you're buying in an engagement ring?
No, industrial diamonds are diamonds or carbon that were not considered good enough quality to be gem quality. Diamonds are traded in the same way as gold in the wider world, but it's a lot harder. With a gold ring, it weighs so many grams, you can look up the price and what people are paying for it. With a diamond, it's a little bit more niche in that you have to go from jeweller to jeweller. They will offer you varying prices, but the idea is that you don't just take the first offer that you're given and go to a reputable jeweller. And if anybody makes you an offer, they should honour that offer for a few days and not insist that you sell it now at the risk of, that. And the lots of that, unfortunately, does go on.
So if you're buying jewellery and it has diamonds in it, do you feel like It's like buying, is it like buying a new car, for example, where you're going to immediately lose some money the second you've bought it, or will it hold its value longer? How does that work?
Yes, you will not be able to sell it for a profit the same day. Jewellery is a more long-term investment. Again, forgive
You're
me
using
if
the term loosely.
Yeah.
You're not actually investing.
I had an example once when I started my jewellery life down the road in the Burlington Arcade. Somebody came in with a ring that they had bought from a jeweller up the road, but because they had acquired a discount on it, thought they could sell it to us at the ticket price that the jeweller wanted. So it's a longer term. Again, jewellery is an emotive purchase. You're buying it to wear for many years or gift to somebody. So it's the term investment I've never particularly liked using, or letting clients believe buying something is a short-term investment when it isn't.
But diamonds do have. But you're telling us that diamonds do have an intrinsic value.
Of course, yeah. Diamonds have a list price as a commodity, and they are traded in the same way that gold is.
So anybody shopping for a diamond, particularly if it's an engagement ring, it's probably, I'm guessing, one of the most popular times to buy your first diamond. Would be aware of the 4 C's. Are they a thing?
Yes. Well, the 4 C's are a way in which we grade a diamond. Now, diamonds. If you get a diamond of a carat, which is the unit of weight in which we measure a diamond, not to be confused with size, you might get 10 stones that all look the same, but it'd be very different prices. And we grade them according to their colour, their clarity, their cut, and the carat weight, as I just said. Cut, incidentally, is often misconstrued to say shape. Cut goes deeper into the polish and the symmetry of a stone.
But if you're just buying a diamond as an investment, is that sound?
It's a tricky question to answer shortly, but if you're buying a 1 carat D colour flawless diamond, the first logical step would be to try and find a jeweller selling one and see the different prices.
What do we mean by I've heard flawless used to describe diamonds. What does it actually mean in layman terms?
It means there are no inclusions whatsoever within the diamond. So the scale of flawless and internally flawless, and VVS and VS, which is a scale of when inclusions start to appear within
Now I
the
know
diamond.
a jeweller would be able to see that with his trained eye, but to a consumer, would they know the difference?
It depends on the quality of the stone. The worse of the quality, the more obvious the inclusions would be, but that will be reflected in the price. But I think it's also important to remember, if you're buying a diamond as a short-term investment, a jeweller's would not be the place to buy it.
So my takeaway from that is, if you're looking to invest in diamonds, the more expensive, better quality are more likely to hold a value than the entry-level qualities. Would you say that the cheaper diamonds are more akin to costume jewellery?
Absolutely not, no. Certainly in the context of an engagement ring, which at the end of the day is a token of love, and it does not matter how much or little money you spend on the thing. It does not reflect the value of your love. It just means if you have a larger budget, you can buy a better quality diamond. Yes, better quality, larger diamonds will hold more of a value, but to reiterate, these aren't short-term investments. Again, it depends the hows and the wheres you buy it. You know, if you go to a fancy part of town, to a big name brand jewellers, you're going to be paying a big margin on the goods that they sell, but that's the power of branding. At the end of the day, a diamond is a diamond no matter who sells it. So as long as you make informed decisions, do shopping around, you know, we're dealers of jewellery, so we don't operate like that. But if you buy something that you know is competitively priced, is beautifully designed, which it's not just about the diamond in the ring, it's about the build of it. You wouldn't buy a wonderful work of art and put it in an IKEA frame. So if you buy a diamond of whatever the value, you want to make sure that the mounting that it's in is very well made, of good quality, because you want your diamond or gemstone to be very secure and stylish for years to come.
I very much enjoy sterling silver in men's accessories, but I don't think men really see them as much as an investment.
Again, with the use of the word investment and silver with jewellery or accessories, for example, Georgian antique silver, a pewter tankard, for example, can go for many thousands of pounds, but it depends on the fashions and trends of the day. So whether you're buying silver or gold, if the quality or the piece is currently desirable, then its value will increase. Although if it falls out of fashion, unfortunately, then it will decrease.
But if you like it, it has a value to you, which is, I think, what we're taking away most today.
Indeed, that's what it's all about. You know, it's there to be enjoyed, whether it be Victorian tea service or a diamond Riviere necklace. It's about the feeling you have owning it or wearing it.
And something else I'd like to touch on is I'm seeing, because I love looking at some of your antique pieces, we are seeing antique and vintage, probably the word vintage is probably more appropriate, vintage costume jewellery now, talking about fashion, having quite a value to it.
Certainly has, with the certain costume jewellery that's had as much craft and design and thought put into it as jewellery made in precious metal. I'm seeing a lot at the moment, certainly vintage Chanel jewellery, where once upon a time, let's say 5 years ago, might have been trading for about £50 or thereabouts. Prices are commanding £400-500, certainly for the sort of rarer ones that perhaps the late Princess of Wales may have been seen wearing and things like that. So it's all about the supply and demand, I suppose.
Of course, so it is a form of art, as art and craftsmanship. It's not just about the weight of
no, of course not, absolutely not. Interestingly enough, Chris, one of the items I'm most asked for, speaking of supply and demand, are antique gold watch chains, whether that be 9 or 18 carat, less so silver, but still, which were originally intended for a gentleman to carry his pocket watch and a nécessaire in his waistcoat.
Can I stop you there? What's a nécessaire?
Oh, it's it's the term used for what's put on the other end of a watch chain. So
I always thought it was like a fob.
Well, it could be your fob with your crest on it for stamping correspondence, or a fruit knife, a compass, or a Masonic ball, perhaps, if you're...
Cigar cutter.
A cigar cutter, indeed. Ladies nowadays wear Albert chains, as they're referred to as necklaces. And when the price of gold increased significantly about 10 years ago, a lot of them, because gentlemen no longer wear watch chains perhaps as prevalently as they used to, were scrapped for their gold weight. So you may pay £10,000 for a watch chain that may only have a few £1,000s of intrinsic value to it, because so few of them exist. And if you get the wonderful Feta and 3 designs, or what are sometimes referred to as the trombone link, they're an incredibly chic thing, but it's a great example of how they command such a higher premium beyond their intrinsic value.
So, speaking from an investment point of view, if you do happen to have a beautiful vintage antique gold watch
Hang
chain,
on to it.
Do not scrap it for gold.
Certainly not.
So, Matthew, in conclusion, what are the key points to consider if you're looking to purchase some jewellery which will appreciate and value?
Well, it's the million-dollar question, really, but I think the best approach would be good signed quality pieces of jewellery, because signed pieces of jewellery, Cartier, Tiffany, Van Cleef & Arpels, from days gone by, from the 40s, 50s and 60s, whilst fashions may come and go, those items, in theory, will always appreciate. The same with other antique jewellery that is just no longer made with the same passion and craft that the majority of high street, stack it high, sell it cheap jewellery certainly won't do.
Well, thank you, Matthew.
As always, a pleasure.
I found that really interesting. I hope you found that insightful too. There is a link below to the Wildsmith Jewellery website. Any questions, put it in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe.